I'm a believer that this team's going to win the national championship. Something stupid is coming out of his mouth. I don't know. Maybe it's just my age. He needs his vote pulled immediately. And of course, yes, a season like this has to have a name. Let's talk about something good about Justin Frye. What are you doing? Season of dreams. Ohio State, my guys, are either the best or the second best program in the history of college football. This guy is a bonehead. They love him. I question your judgment as an adult. I really do. I was a total hater. I know that for a fact, and I just don't get it. Get us back our sleeves and say, bring me that. That's the one I want. Welcome to JUCK N KRIS College Football Show, your 4th to 7th favorite college football show, and climbing. So happy you could join us on a Friday. I got my man back in the house. KD, what's up, brother?
I missed you, dog. Obviously we missed Friday, and then I missed Monday. I was in Happy Valley, Penn State, whatever you want to call it, and I've been looking forward to this. I'm ready to get some things off my chest. This is like the Akron therapy college football session that I know everybody enjoys as much as I do.
I cannot wait. It feels like it's been forever. We've got an absolutely loaded week. We got Big 12 races heating up. Obviously, the SEC race is bananas. I can't remember a season that I went into so many weekends with so much excitement. And I look at the changes, the expansion of the conferences, the conference championship games now meaning so much, not just for the bye, but for these teams that are going to find themselves the only way they can make it in is to win that game. And you pair that with the expanded playoff. Any one of these changes just on their own would have made for crazy, exciting matchups throughout the year. When you add all these three together, it's just bananas every weekend.
No, it is. And it just adds so much more parity because teams obviously going into the final couple weeks of every season, there's 2 or 3 teams that are contending for each conference, I believe. And now that winning your conference locks you into a playoff spot and a bye, it makes every one of these weeks, there's at least 2 or 3 games per week that contribute to who's winning the national title. And that never was said, I think, before in the 14 playoff.
For sure. So we're going to go through some news. We're going to go through the 12 biggest games of the weekend today. We're going to talk some Buckeyes. Juck Eyes in the chat. Feel free to get any super chats in you want. We'll get to those. Please retweet, like the video. We want a big show today. And Chris is 1-0 in making his picks on Juck on Bucks. I'm on a 7-week heater up 16 units. Let's see if we can make it one more. But before we do, dude, I've had a crazy week. I've been out of the loop. I didn't get to watch but one show of you. Did you have any thoughts on the committee rankings? Did you argue with anyone? What did you think of that first ranking that came out?
It was okay. I think that there is naturally, I guess, some human bias when it comes what you look at on a helmet. I think that in no world has Miami been more impressive than Indiana all year. I get the strength of schedule argument, cool, but game control wise, I think Indiana being down one time all season and then going on to win that game by 30 plus points. There just have been a more dominant football team than Miami, and I think it's more the helmet thing, I guess. In addition, Penn State also, they're a really good football team. Obviously lost to Ohio State. I'm a belief that even if you're not going to put Indiana ahead of those two teams, they deserve to be a lot closer, I think. But that was my only really big argument. I mean, if anybody ever wants to argue with me or debate me on these things, I will dismantle them if they would like to. And so I have less people nowadays wanting to debate these things with me, which is cool. It's good. It's fine. It's whatever.
Do you think, and there's been a pretty loud response about that, particularly with Indiana. I think BYU is the more egregious ranking, but Indiana as well. But do you think that the loud response is going to influence them next week? And I got this theory that I think that oftentimes they'll use something as an excuse to course correct. And I think that they're going to use, if Indiana goes out and beats Michigan, they're going to course correct that and say now, okay, they've beat a team with NFL players now, a team that's got some talent and, a winning record. And they're going to course correct maybe. And we might see Indiana jump where we otherwise might not have next week.
Yeah, I mean, even if they quote unquote course correct, they're still wrong. The whole idea and the premise, they're wrong because where I'm at is, yes, I get, again, Michigan helmet brand, name recognition, defend national title. Yeah, I get that. That could be, okay, look, now they beat Michigan, we'll move them up. The big overarching issue with that is that Indiana already dominated Washington, who's better than Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, if you're not gonna move me up for dominating Washington, but you're gonna move me up for dominating Michigan, that means that you're confirming what we all think is true, is that there's significant helmet bias.
That's right.
And I think honestly that's probably why a lot of people haven't wanted to debate me on this. I mean, the way it's currently constructed, there's just so much bias, and they are gonna course correct, but also they're gonna use it as, if Indiana doesn't dominate Michigan all the way through and doesn't beat them by 3 or more scores, the committee's gonna sit back and see, look, that's why they're where they're ranked, because they couldn't even dominate Michigan for 4 quarters, like the way we saw Oregon did it. So I don't know. Indiana's in a no-win situation. Fortunately for them, they control their own destiny. I just think they should be in the playoff with or without even making it to the Big Ten title game, is kind of where I'm at currently. So I think being ranked a little bit ahead of, like being right in that 5 to 6 range now, would give them a little bit more cushion, because I don't want them getting beat by Ohio State, or even like beat handily by Ohio State, to be the automatic disqualifier, and for that to be the, look, they finally played a team with a pulse and now they're out. No. Ohio State's a top 2 team, and the number 2 team usually would beat the number 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 team by multiple scores. So
where do you stand just kind of philosophically on best versus best with the most deserving resume? Because the mission in the 14 playoff was always stated as the 4 best teams. That was their mission. Usually it was a straightforward decision of who those 4 teams were, but we've seen instances where they didn't choose the 4 best because one of those 4 best did not have the resume, like Ohio State in 2015, or Georgia last year. In any power ranking, those 2 teams, those particular years, were absolutely the best. And they got left out because they didn't also have that resume to go with it. And I've seen a lot of people argue on this Penn State, Indiana argument this week, citing power ratings and predictive measures that the committee's looking at. And I think all information is good information, but I think that you cannot just specifically go by power ratings as to say who's the best, because if you do that, you take away some incentive for the regular season. For instance, Penn State, I was using this example earlier this year, they have a very small chance now of making it to the Big Ten championship. What if they decide they want to get healthy for the rest of the year, kick the can down the road, and all of a sudden we now look, they're not going to drop in the power rankings if they start resting guys in the second half. So now we got similar to the NFL, where we see teams rest in the last couple of weeks when they got something clinched and they can't move up or down. I don't want that in college football. So I think you have to consider all the information. I cannot stand people who, I don't like the argument, like we're just going to go by what computers tell us. There has to be nuance to this. You have to earn it on the field as well.
I am a big believer in, if you it should always be the best teams, you're kind of stripping away what sports kind of is. I believe that undoubtedly it has to be the most deserving teams, and has to be, because deserve is closest to earned, I believe, in my opinion. Yeah. I think it has to be the most deserving teams. And I'll boil it down a little bit further. It's like, what if the Super Bowl was only for the 2 best teams, no matter what happened during the playoffs? It's like, okay, like, yeah, we're going to play the playoffs, but we're just going to say who we think are the best 2 teams and have them play. It's like, no. Sports is supposed to be, you earn the right to win a championship. And I don't think you can earn the right to be a championship if you strictly have it by best. Because if it was by best, then Ohio State absolutely should have been in the 14 playoff in 2015. And they should have been the Natty, because they were one of the 4 best teams. But they lost the right because they didn't earn it by losing to Michigan State. Last year, I think Georgia was likely a better team than Michigan, than Alabama, than all those teams. But they lost that game because you do have to play the game on the field. And, I think it has to come down to who deserves it, because if you do best, then all of a sudden it's eye test, it's biases, and it takes away why we play the game on the field. It has to be deserved.
Totally with you. Another thing that irritated me from it, this has always irritated me, but something that Ward Manuel was asked at the end of that show, which I watched. I haven't watched one of those things, I think, since 2015, but I watched that show, and Reese Davis asked him at the end how they're going to handle losers of conference championship games. And it was clear that Ward Manuel was not prepared for this question. It almost felt like they did not really discuss it. And he said something to the effect of, we'll try not to punish someone, but we're watching. I actually think that this should be something that basically is in the guidelines, that you are not going to punish a team that is playing in a conference championship because they lose and have somebody who is idle jump above them. If anybody recalls back in 2022, I'm sure we got a lot of Buckeye fans here. Ohio State and USC were both 11-1 at the end of the regular season. Correct. Ohio State did not make the Big Ten championship. USC made the Pac-12 championship, got blown out 47-24, had some injuries, gave up a ton of yards. Ohio State idle jumped them. And obviously, as a Buckeye fan, it was great. But philosophically, I'm just very much against that. You earn the right to play. You should not be able to let somebody who's sitting idle move up because they had a poor performance. And they took a beating on top of it. Like, I really disagree with that.
Yeah, I go back and forth on conference title games about punishing the loser, because part of me views it as like a second chance a lot of times for schools, because like USC, if they would have taken care of business earlier in that season and been and then if they would have won the games, if they hadn't lost to Utah twice, I think I would have given them more grace, I guess is where I'm at. But no, I agree with you. I mean, I don't think teams that play in the conference title game should be punished. I really don't think so, unless they get absolutely blown out. But that's one of those things a little bit trickier for me to kind of unpack.
So when you look at, like, obviously we know that those are the teams that now have the 17-game road, right? So they're already being punished because of that.
Right,
then,
they are definitely being punished. You know, I wouldn't punish any. You're right. I would not punish any losers of a conference title game. I wouldn't.
And if they do, and I was just running through scenarios, like let's say, for instance, LSU makes the SEC championship game, but they've got the 2 losses, but just the 1 SEC loss. They're sitting, let's say, 8. Penn State's sitting 9. Penn State doesn't make the Big Ten championship game. LSU looks like crap, and those two flip-flop. And now you went from LSU having a home game against Penn State to Penn State having a home game against LSU when they sat idle. And it's just like, I just disagree with this totally. And I wish that Ward Manuel would have thought about it beforehand and maybe given a proper answer, but it was clear that he had not. And I'm not surprised by that. But
no, I mean, he's a loser. So
let's get into some of these games. We got the big SEC. Well, let's start here. Florida heads into Texas. Texas number 5 in the poll. The Gators are 2-3 in the SEC, 4-4 overall. Texas a 21.5-point favorite. And of course, we got to start off talking about Billy Napier, as yesterday, Florida's AD Scott Strickland announced Billy Napier will be returning. And I feel horrible for Florida fans. What was your initial take when that came out?
I was shocked, man. Imagine you going into work and someone feeling the need to make a statement that you're not going to get fired.
It's unbelievable.
That's right. Like think about how crazy that is. Just like strip the football aside of it. Like someone felt the need, your boss felt the need to tell the world that you were not getting fired.
It's pretty wild. It's pretty wild.
Blown away.
Yeah,
just totally expected. Has gone way down, and I'm leaning more and more into this theory that in current modern day college football, only one team in the state of Florida can be good at a time. Can't have more than one. So they just look. It was never your state. It was only your turn. They just have to wait till Miami gives up their turn, and then maybe Florida's up in the rotation. I think that's how it works. I think University of Florida knows. Like, look, if we just stay the course, at some point it will accidentally be our turn. I think a state like Florida is too talented for all 3 schools to be down at once. So Miami, I don't know what their quarterback situation is going to be next year if they don't have one. The best quarterback situation currently in the state of Florida is the University of Florida. If this roster stays intact and they bring another recruiting class, get a transfer or 7, maybe it's their turn next. Because again, there cannot be more than one good team in Florida the whole time. For Miami to run, Florida State had to die. For Florida to run, it's going to have to be Miami to die. But honestly, I think they made this statement as an attempt to keep the recruiting class intact. And
Chris, it's ranked 51st.
Is it really? It's 51st,
bro.
Oh, yeah, dude, they're cooked. I thought they were much higher than that.
Yeah.
I thought they were much higher than that. But
that's the first thing I checked. I was like, this got to be. I was like, are you kidding me?
They're cooked. I mean, honestly, you know what this probably was, Juck? You know why they probably made this statement?
Go ahead.
They probably called 2 people, Curt Cignetti, right, and Lane Kiffin. Both said, not interested.
It's crazy, dude.
So at that point, if you're an AD, it's like, all right, I'm not going to fire him this year. I'm going to wait till the next cycle and see what coaches are available because the guys on my list are currently not. And so I feel like I got to make this statement. I don't know. The whole thing's weird. The Florida standard is down in the dumps, 4 straight losing seasons. But with that being said, I still think I would take them with the points this week.
You are. I'm tracking your picks. Okay.
Yeah.
Pick number 1. My man is taking Florida with the points. I'm on Texas. Yeah. I was blown away by that decision. The guy and that we're going to have 4 straight losing seasons. Do you know that next year, this crazy schedule they've had, it's the same schedule, just flip-flopped home and away?
Jeez, oh, Pete, dude.
They got the same schedule next year. They're cooked. This guy's absolutely cooked. His buyout, $26 million, which, by today's standards is really not ridiculous.
No, Juck, here we go. I'll push back. If he got paid his $26 million buyout, that would be the second highest paid buyout in college football history.
Really?
Yeah. People, and myself included, I had to go double check this because in my head, I think about Jimbo Fisher and the $80 million.
Right.
And I'm thinking, okay, like that $26 million is not really that big of a buyout because Jimbo just got the 8. No. Jimbo's buyout was so egregiously high.
Amazing.
The $26 million was good for second highest ever. I said it on yesterday's show. The Jimbo Fisher buyout is legitimately the Wilt Chamberlain of buyouts.
Yeah.
Remember when people talk about NBA records, they're always talking about, this is the, first player in modern day basketball, which really just is everybody excluding Wilt to have 20 points, 20 rebounds, and 20 blocks in a game. And it's like, oh yeah, because Wilt was so ridiculous back then. No,
right.
The paid buyout of Jimbo Fisher, the highest ever, and second is all the way at $25 million.
So it's like 600% higher than second place. That's insane.
Like literally hitting the gold mine when you ink that kind of buyout makes yourself unfireable. And the second highest would have been Mel Tucker's, but Mel Tucker with that ridiculous buyout got fired with cause.
Yeah. Did he win his court case? Where does he stand? I heard he won his court case.
So he won one of the court cases. Okay. Now he's got to win the one against Michigan State, but Michigan State is essentially alleging that you have a character clause in your contract. You don't get to cheat on your wife and be the head coach here. And that's enough for cause for us. I believe. I'm not a lawyer, clearly.
How are you feeling about Texas? You and I have never been totally bought in on Texas. And, we weren't bought in before the Georgia game. A lot of people have jumped off the ship now. If you're looking at, I think Texas is the 3rd most likely to win a national championship, 4th, 5th. Where do you stand? I've got him at 5th. I got him behind Oregon, Ohio State, Georgia, and Tennessee.
That's about where I'm at. I do think some of those teams that could sneak into the playoffs could end up beating them.
Me too.
I'm not intimidated by Texas at all. They feel like of all the teams kind of hitting the halfway mark of this marathon, they're the team. Here we go. In gym class, we used to have to do this thing where we ran a mile. And it was always 26 laps around, or maybe more laps around the gym. And there was always that group of kids that would sprint out really quickly and try to be first for a lot and then be walking after that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Texas is that team. They're literally at the halfway mark of this marathon and it looks like they're limping. They've played 2 quarterbacks. One of them's beat up. The other one looks like a freshman, which is fair. Even though he's a sophomore. The running back room has been blown up. They just dismissed a wide receiver. They look and feel like a team that's limping to the finish line. They would have got absolutely obliterated by Georgia if Carson Beck wasn't colorblind. It wasn't confusing burnt orange for red. I think they are a limping football team. And I think this Florida team is a team that, oddly enough, takes a moral victory from last week. Mm-hmm. A team that, has belief at some level in their head coach. I read a couple of reports talking about DJ Lagway is very excited that Billy will be back next year. And this just feels like a game that I expect Texas to win, but they don't strike fear in my heart. They haven't all year. And I think this game could be close because of it. Yeah,
I'm with you. What do we got here? Oh, your guys, Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech welcomes in to Bobby Dodd, the number 4 ranked team, the Miami Hurricanes. Miami -11. Georgia Tech is 5-4. This series, I look back, 28 games. They're tied 14-14. Miami averaging 47 points a game. Can Cam Ward stay hot in Bobby Dodd, which is a very underrated, cool stadium? I'm sure you know that.
Very cool.
Can your boys pull the shocker? Is Haynes King even going to play? What are we thinking here?
They absolutely cannot pull off the shocker. This team is we talk about teams limp into the. I mean, this is a Georgia Tech team with a clipped wing. They're so beat up. Haynes King is beat up. I don't even think he'll play. And I just think that right now Miami feels like a team that if you want to beat them, you have to have electric wide receivers outside, and you have to be able to torch them downfield. And I'm sorry, I love Haynes King. Georgia Tech is not capable of doing that. They're just not capable of being in a shootout. And also, I watched Georgia Tech be unable to slow down Kyle McCord at all. Kyle McCord's whole swagger came back. In quarter one of Georgia Tech versus Syracuse, he looked at his team and said, "These guys suck." That's the clean version.
Yeah.
There's nothing they can do. And they went 4-5 wide, and I felt like I was watching prime Joe Montana. So the answer is no. I expect Cam Ward to look like Lamar Jackson mixed with Pat Mahomes and have a Heisman-level 450-yard performance against Georgia Tech.
All right, so you're taking Miami minus 11.
Correct.
Okay. I'm going the other way.
Oh.
I'm taking a hold my nose and playing a spot here. I think we've got a sleepy noon game, and they kind of pull one of the old-fashioned Buckeye games that we deal with every once in a while this time of year, where they just sleepwalk like a Nebraska game and realize they're in a game late. I just a spot play, just a hunch. We'll see. It's worked for me the last couple of weeks. But yeah, I got a spot play. I'm taking Georgia Tech. Let's go to the afternoon. The banger of the afternoon. Number 3, Georgia, 7-1 overall, 5-1 in the SEC. Number 16, Ole Miss, 7-2, 3-2 in the SEC. Georgia, a 2.5-point favorite on the road. This is everything for Lane, right? Their 3 conference wins have come from South Carolina, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. And after Georgia, they've got Florida, Mississippi State left. Their out of conference this year was Wake Forest, Furman, and Middle Tennessee. We will see 3 lost teams in this playoff. I've been telling everybody for 6 months. I ran the numbers back on the last 25 years. More than 50% of the time, it includes a 3-loss team. 27% of the time, it includes more than 1 3-loss teams. This will not be that team with that resume. So it's all on the line. This is an elimination game for sure at Vaught-Hemingway Stadium for Ole Miss. What are you thinking?
I bet Ole Miss money line.
I like it. I like the play. This is the year that Ole Miss targeted. They spent all the money. Your dude Jackson's blowing up. Man, that week he had 500 yards, 6 touchdowns. He beat, I saw this Archie Manning's record from 1969, and I was just thinking back, like what football was like in 1969, and Archie Manning was putting over 500 yards and 6 touchdowns. How insane is that?
That's disgustingly insane.
If Carson Beck has another bad game after throwing 3 picks against Bama, Texas, Florida, 2 against Mississippi State, I don't know what's wrong with this guy. Ole Miss is 42 sacks, leads the country. I feel like Georgia fans are going to absolutely panic.
If he loses this game, do you consider benching him if you're Kirby?
I'm not. Talking to some of the Georgia fans, they don't think that that's even in the cards, but I don't know how you don't. You keep winning despite him. Does he maybe just needs a break, needs to get his head right? I don't know what you do here, man. The only other SEC game Georgia has after this is Tennessee. Obviously, they play your guys, and then if they play their FCS opponent, those might be get-right games for him.
I think that the thing that haunted Kirby Smart from winning his first title earlier than he should have won the title the 2 a year. He should have. But you know what he refused to do?
What?
He kept telling himself, well, with Jake Fromm, we've won all these games, even though Jake Fromm was actively trying to lose them games. They had Justin Fields behind him.
That's right.
Kirby now might have a quarterback room. Rashada might be the future, or maybe the other kid. If they keep letting Carson Beck give them these scares, at some point he's going to throw a game away, and then you're going to see the teeth come out. Like we need to bench Carson Beck. But by then, I think it'll be too late.
Yeah.
He's got the second most interceptions in all of Power 5.
That's insane. How impressive is it that they're still winning?
He's got one less interception than Kyle McCord, who leads Power 5 interceptions, and he's got like 45 less attempts.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Kyle McCord is all the way up to 12.
Ouch. So much for all the stuff everybody was saying about the McCord-Howard debate early in the season. Greg Sankey's memo about the fake injuries, a lot of people took to be somewhat directed at Lane Kiffin. Lane comes out and trolls with 26 guys on the injury report. To Georgia's just 6 guys. Did you read the memo?
I didn't.
Oh man, it was hardcore, dude. He came out and just absolutely blasted these guys. No more fake injuries. Stop the fake injury nonsense. Oh, yeah. And obviously, Lane's done that a ton this year. So Lane comes back, 26 guys on the injury report. There's just 6 guys for Georgia. This dude is so petty, man. He's still not grown up.
He did put everybody on the injury list. I am worried about Trey Harris not playing. I love Trey Harris. I think he's a really good player. He missed the last 2 weeks.
I couldn't believe they put up those numbers without him last week. That was what was so wild.
Well, the one kid had 10 catches for like 257 yards and 5 touchdowns. Juck, I don't know if you play fantasy football. That's the equivalent to 1 million fantasy points.
Absolutely. So you've got Ole Miss money line. I'm going to take Ole Miss plus the 2.5. I'm going to give you the 2.5 because we're just going to take it against the line. And just a reminder to everyone that we make all our plays here at JUCK on Bucks on my bookie, where if you sign up now with the promo code JUCK, they're going to match your deposit 100% up to $1,000. I know you probably got a book already. Take advantage. Get a couple of bucks for free. Why not? We're giving you the picks. We're giving you some free money to play it with. Go ahead and take advantage. My bookie promo code JUCK. Now, let's get to the Big Ten. 5-4 Michigan, number 8 in the country, Indiana. Indiana minus 14. This is obviously Indiana's biggest test so far of the season. We laughed at Curt Cignetti's press conference. We played it here. He called out Purdue. He called out Michigan and Ohio State. I said it's Indiana. Let him have some fun, right? Let him have some fun for once. He knew it was condescending. He knows what's going on. He knows what we all thought of him at that point. The dude's obviously got it, man. He's got the juice. He's got the swagger. He's got Juju coming back for another visit. I saw they had a 4-star receiver come in this week. This Michigan team definitely got some talent that they've not seen at Indiana. Part of me thinks that Indiana's going to smoke them. And then there's that rivalry part of me that maybe respects Michigan a little more than I should in some spots like this. I'm really curious to see if that Michigan defense can do anything like they did against Michigan State, where they sacked Aiden Childs 7 times, 15 tackles for loss. What are you thinking here? How are you seeing this? Like most Michigan games this year, I'm just puzzled.
I think Curt Cignetti is on a quest to earn national success or national respect, and I think he knows that absolutely dominating Michigan will 1,000% let people know, oh, wow, they're actually here. They've dominated everybody all season. And I can argue that they beat better teams than Michigan this season handedly, like Washington. But Curt Cignetti knows the reason they're being disrespected is because he hasn't put a beat down to a blue blood or a team with one of those helmets. He's not going to miss an opportunity this week to send a message to not just the whole country and every writer, but to every recruit. This Indiana team is really real, and we're just getting started. And he knows that this may be the only chance he gets to kind of make that mark, because I don't think they beat Ohio State. But I think blowing out Michigan and having a close game against Ohio State, or a game that is at least respectable by the national media, all of a sudden will have everybody eyes locked in on them. Like, absolutely. So that I think that they are going to absolutely dominate Michigan this week. And I'm excited to see the national response after that. And the thing that you referenced beforehand, that's the course correction.
This is so fascinating based on the trajectory of these two programs to me. And you got to wonder, I mean, how jealous are Michigan fans right now of Indiana with that guy? And they're saddled with Sharon Moore, who's I believe probably going to go 6-6 this year. They kept him around, gave him the job to keep continuity, squeeze another nice season out of this group of guys. I don't know, like they're going to have him back. And I just, after seeing the level of incompetence, I don't know how you do that. I really don't know how you don't try to move on. Maybe they're scared they can't get somebody better. Maybe it's got to do with Ward Manuel. I don't see that program getting any better or being any kind of competition under this guy until he's in year 4 or 5, which he'll never get to. As we know, he's just not ready for this. He never was.
I think he sucks.
Yeah. And then you're looking at Cignetti, a guy who's just knows exactly what the hell he's doing, comes in with a system, and you got to be looking, if you're Michigan over there, like, man, did we screw up here?
They screwed up, man. They screwed up. I'm excited. I'm a big believer in Cignetti, man. I'm buying all the stock in the world. I deep dive into the background, deep dive into his recruiting days. Like he's ready for the big leagues. He is 63, so I do wonder, like, how much longer he'll be doing this. But he's real deal Holyfield, man.
So what is your pick, buddy? 14.
I got Indiana winning by like 4. I would buy it up to 14. What is it at 12 right now?
It's at 14 right now.
Okay. Yeah, I got Indiana.
Okay. I'm with you on that pick as well. Indiana minus 14. All right. We've got 3 really big games in the Big 12. Iowa State, K-State, Colorado, Texas Tech, and the Holy War, BYU and Utah. And let me pull up the Big 12 standings so everybody knows where we stand here in the Big 12 right now as we head into week 11. And we've got in conference BYU still undefeated, Iowa State and Colorado each with 1 loss, but Colorado 6-2 overall. Iowa State just that 1 heartbreaking loss last week. And this is tight, man. This is really tight. Colorado's still in this thing. Iowa State's chances of getting to the playoffs, to me, they've got to make it to the championship and win the championship now. A 1-loss Iowa State is not getting in otherwise. The way that loss went down for Matt Campbell and the guys last week was a heartbreaker. I don't know if you saw the end of that, but it really sucked. They're playing a terrible Kansas team. Kansas playing a little better. Kansas just won 2 games, and this line is just a 3-point line, man.
This one confuses me. When I was going through after you sent this last night, I was like researching, trying to understand why this would only be -3.
It's absolutely screaming for you to take Iowa State. It's screaming for you to take Iowa State, which is why I'm taking Kansas +3. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense at all.
You got Kansas.
Dude, when it doesn't make sense like that, I'm running away from it. I'm going the other way. They want you to take Iowa State here. They're trying to dupe you into it, bro. Don't do it. Don't do it.
This is a game that I never would have bet on, but I've been duped. I got Matt Campbell in Iowa, my Iowa State -3. I really do. I was looking at this last night, just like completely puzzled as to why it would be that.
Yeah, it makes no sense at all. It really doesn't.
Look, if Vegas is trying to dupe me, congrats, y'all win. I'm going.
All right, so you are on Iowa State. What do you think about Matt Campbell? Do you think that he is going to consider leaving this time? He didn't last time, obviously, when they were hot. Back when Ryan Day was hired by Ohio State, he didn't really consider leaving much at that point. This time, he had some interest a couple years after that as well. And then it looked like, wow, this guy made a big mistake, not striking while the iron was hot. Now he's back up. Names all over the place. He's talked about loving Iowa State and turning down more money to leave several times. Do you think this might be the time where he and his family consider it?
I think landscape-wise, if it wouldn't have changed as much as it has since the last time he's been hot, I would say no. But I do think he will take the Michigan job as soon as it opens back up here in the next, 24 months.
That would hurt me to have another Ohioan coaching up there.
It would hurt me as well, but that's the only job I think that's going to come open for him to go get in this area, unless Cignetti goes somewhere else. But, the Cignetti to Florida thing isn't going to happen this year, clearly. So it depends on what opening comes open first, Indiana or Michigan. But also, is Indiana a big enough step up from Iowa State? Probably not. So I think it would be a job like Michigan whenever Sherrone Moore gets fired.
Yeah. All right, number 20 in the playoff rankings, Colorado, 6-2. They are -3.5. to Texas Tech. This is the big noon kickoff game. I don't know how much Joel Klatt had to do with that decision, but I'm guessing a little bit. Getting Joel on that call, that sounds kind of exciting. Colorado is rooting for that Kansas win for sure. They want Iowa State to lose to give them the opportunity. Are you surprised that they're still in it in week 11? I don't remember what your thought was on them heading into.
I'm shocked. No, I'm shocked.
You're shocked? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
As am
they
I.
have a chance for a playoff. I thought a playoff was just like a pipe dream, a joke, some comedy. Like, they are absolutely in the thick of it. And honestly, like, it's not a fluke. And that's the weird thing for me. But maybe the whole Big 12 is a fluke. Who knows?
Now that we're seeing the success at Colorado, how much bigger of a mistake does it look like now that Deion did not use his superpower recruiting advantage immediately? And for those who are unaware, he prefers to sign out of the transfer. I'm sure you know that, but his classes are like 5 to 7 guys so far because he's just been, quite frankly, lazy about it. And if he chose to, he could run circles around most of these guys. Top 10 classes. And if he had done it from the beginning, gotten the ball rolling, top 10 classes, he'd have guys next year, heading into next year, he'd have studs starting for him all over the place. Way better talent than he's getting out of the portal. I mean,
he could have locked up that whole region and had a lot of success recruiting in California if he would just like give a damn and just go do it.
And
like, he could have a chance to really like lock up the region and maybe not get all the A++ players in that area, but all the B players that Oregon doesn't want. Like, they had a chance to be the second recruiting force out there. And like with the fall off of some of these West Coast teams and with, just how bad Big 12 recruiting has been, they had a real shot to build a really good base to make this a job that was sustainable for the next 5 to 6 years. Instead, he was arrogant and decided to pick his spots. I mean, he is like the lazy basketball player. Like, dog, you are Michael Beasley. I know you can get a bucket whenever you want, but you refuse to just because you're being lazy and you're not bought into the sport. I feel like Deion loves what comes with being a head coach and loves the fame and the credit he gets, but he doesn't want to do the things to help get him there, like the recruiting to build a program. So
honestly, my man Alpha Dog, to Prime's credit, he hits on players out of high school. Seaton's been a home run for him. To me, this makes it worse. That
makes it a lot worse.
When you can go land a 5-star left tackle and beat out Ohio State and Tennessee, the two teams who the very next cycle were competing for David Sanders. When you can go do that, it shows that you have the ability to go do that at every position. We've seen the way grannies and fathers and kids react to them. Like, I follow all Ohio State, the Ohio State recruits. London Merritt was just there. Yeah. Naeem Offord wants to go there. Like, everybody's interested in this. He's not putting forth that little extra effort to land them. And next year, he could have all these dudes like coming of age on his roster. It's been a huge mistake, quite frankly. He could be a top 10 recruiter at Colorado, which would be amazing. He's chosen not to. They could actually be national championship contenders in 4 years if he had started that. I don't think he wants to.
No.
As far as the game goes, my pick, Texas Tech plus the 3.5. Where are you going?
Oh, Texas Tech plus 3.5?
Yeah.
I have Colorado.
Okay.
I got Colorado by probably. Honestly, I keep thinking about. I think that Colorado's going to end up being too much offensively for them.
Could be. We'll see how that one goes. I can't wait. That's an exciting one. I like
We're separate on a lot of picks today. Last time we did this, we were pretty close on a lot of picks. We are definitely not close right now.
No, we're not. That's good. That'll make for a good fun day, Monday recap. South Carolina heads to Vandy. South Carolina 5-3. Vandy is 6-3. Are these the two hottest teams in the SEC right now?
Yes.
South Carolina, 4.5-point favorite. Like, I love watching both of these teams. They've been awesome all year. Lenora Sellers at South Carolina is so fun. That defensive line is so fun. Diego obviously is amazing. Everybody loves Diego.
Pavia.
The only time I bet against these guys was last week. I thought that it was over. The Magic had to run out at some point. They headed down to Auburn. They did their man again. I lost my money. I'm not doing it again for a second time. Give me Vandy plus the 3.5. Where are you going?
Give me South Carolina minus the 3.5.
All right. Wow.
I don't think Vandy's going to be able to score. I think that this defensive line is going to really wreak havoc for Pavia. And honestly, like Pavia's runaround style, I don't think is conducive to the kind of talent that South Carolina has on the defensive line, led by a guy like Dylan Stewart. So
fair points, my man. Let's head to Happy Valley, Sad Valley, whatever you want to call it. 5-4 Washington heads into Penn State for the whiteout. Penn State has won 27 straight games against unranked opponents. That's the fourth longest streak of such kind. This game, a whiteout at Penn State against Washington, their first year in the Big Ten, a team that, has won a national championship, not some scrub. Obviously, we know the success they had last year. A pretty damn big game. And it has been relegated, a whiteout at Penn State, to the Peacock Network, which blows my flipping mind, bro. A whiteout on Peacock. Are you kidding me?
Huge thumbs down.
I can't even believe it. It's not even going to be on our 4-box.
No,
that makes me furious.
It's an embarrassment, dude. And that Peacock broadcasting crew also sucks.
Oh my gosh, were they bad? Andrew Siciliano and Colt McCoy. Are you kidding me?
They suck.
They couldn't even pronounce names right. It was embarrassing. It was embarrassing when Ohio State was on there for who was it? The Michigan State game, I think.
Yeah.
Embarrassing. What did you think of Urban's comments that he'd ban people like that kid that came at James Franklin? He characterized it. The kid that said 3 trips into the red zone, 3 scores, was yelling at him. Franklin obviously trying to get him in trouble with the school, ask him what's his name. Urban said that he would go after a kid like that, get him banned.
Soft, stupid, idiotic. First of all, a couple things always happen with James Franklin. James Franklin always has boneheaded, confusing coaching mishaps and things that are true, like the red zone trips. I mean, remember a couple years ago when it was, I believe, 4th and 5, and he called a zone read and Chase Young ate it up.
Mm-hmm.
And you remember what happened after the game? A fan said that's a terrible call on 4th down, and James Franklin did the same thing. James, you're making over $7 million a year. Quit being soft and trying to get students banned. How about you just score in the red zone and people won't yell at you? Dude. Like it was idiotic of Urban to say that, and idiotic of James Franklin to engage with fans after the game like that.
You got to take some crap sometimes, man. It is what it is.
Have some thicker skin. Like, don't be a loser.
It's obviously a unique, huge opportunity to be a college football coach at a place like Penn State. There are some negative things that go with it. He knows that. He acknowledges that. In his press conference, he just said that the other day. But man, oh man, to act the way he has, and we've seen this repeatedly after losses to fans. It's just ridiculous, dude.
Yeah, it's like how about we ban red zone trips then?
Right.
Like Urban, that was such a stupid. I love Urban, but Urban's got to get it together, dude.
Yeah. Some of the stuff he says on that podcast cracks me up, man.
Because you know what it falls into, Juck? It falls into the thing like that James Franklin is just better than everybody else. Like James Franklin just doesn't deserve any criticism.
Yeah.
Like because James Franklin wouldn't say that to if Joe Clack got on a set and said that. No, nobody's asking like nobody's banning him from a set. No one's banning someone from calling it. Like, it's idiotic, dude.
Kid didn't even swear. He didn't even swear at him.
He didn't even cuss.
Yeah,
and I would have been cussing.
Absolutely, most people would have.
Yeah,
right? But I said I didn't care if the kid got in trouble because I saw his stupid sweatsuit and his cap. And I go ahead, get that kid in trouble. He's not my kind of guy. Drew Aller not getting much respect nationally. He's our dude. Is it him or is it the receivers? What do you think?
I think that I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but I'll go down a rabbit hole. I'm a believer that people don't actually watch Penn State. And I think that Drew Aller does not get national attention because people don't watch Penn State. And when they do, it's been against Ohio State and Michigan. And those are 2 very good defenses the last 2 years. And Drew Aller hasn't like a superhero in those games, hasn't been in a shootout in those games because of those defenses. I think that simply Penn State is not cool to watch week to week. And because of that, Drew Aller doesn't get the grace, attention, or respect that other guys get.
I think it's a fair point. I get
like I always ask Ohio State fans, like they're always like, oh, like Drew Aller sucks, and that was the thing that was going on last year, and even this year too. And I always ask them, who did you watch them? What Drew Aller game did you watch? And the answer is always this: I watched them against Ohio State and Michigan. It's like, cool. So I'll stop you right there. Would you consider Ohio State's defense good? Well, yeah. Elite. Well, yeah. This year, do you consider? Well, yeah. Okay, so you're judging him off an elite defense. Like, do I think he's all worldly, a perfect prospect? No, not at all. But if we were only judging guys based off of what they did against Ohio State's defense, then guess what? There's only one good quarterback in the last 10 years, and it's Dylan Gabriel.
There we go. All right. Penn State minus 13.5.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going with Washington here.
Okay.
Who you got?
So am I. I'm going with Washington. I think Washington is a better football team than people realize. Their group of receivers can do some damage. And I think this has got the whole recipe for, like, we're bummed and down on ourselves, and maybe this is a game for 3 quarters. And if it is, I expect Penn State to win by maybe like 10.
Very much my logic with that one as well. Let's hop back to the SEC, where Oklahoma at 5-4 overall, just 1-4 in the SEC, heads to number 24 Mizzou, which we kind of wrote off after the A&M loss, 6-2, and they're still in it. They're still in it for the SEC title. Oklahoma has beaten Temple, Houston, Tulane, and Maine, and Auburn, their one SEC win. So basically, all they had to do was win 2 games in conference to be bowl eligible. They may not be able to do it. And after being so offended, all their fans were, by that 7.5 win total preseason. Remember that? They were just,
I do remember that.
Yeah, man, it doesn't look like they're going to get there. By the way, Chris, can we stop saying bowl eligible? Like, when do we stop saying this? Like, what are these bowls going to mean this year when we've got 11 games associated with this playoff? And we saw these kids not wanting to play in those things before. Yeah. There was only 3 games in the playoff. Like, what's it look like now? It's going to be total trash.
It's going to be the young guys bowl game. It's going to be like a spring game.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's going to be like spring games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that term can just go ahead and die. The bowl.
I mean, really, what bowl eligible means is
500.
Yeah, it means 500, and also, like, we've earned the chance to get extra practices.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it is. It's like these coaches are going to treat it like spring games, and I expect the players to do the exact same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Over the years, Missouri has spoiled things for Oklahoma several times.
Mm-hmm.
Can Oklahoma play spoiler here?
They cannot.
No?
No. They absolutely cannot.
So you got Mizzou -3. I got Mizzou -3.
Mizzou -3 is the only play here. Brent Venables stinks.
Off-topic question, Venables or Napier, who do you trust to turn it around more next year?
Super easy, Napier. I think that in modern day college football, the currency is trenches and quarterback. I don't think Oklahoma is going to have either next year. I think Oklahoma's quarterback situation is going to be an absolute nightmare and disaster. I don't know who it's going to be. I don't know who's going to be on the roster. And I think that DJ Lagway is at least going to be a top 15 quarterback, and I cannot say the same for anybody on Oklahoma's roster next year. And I also don't trust the development of Brent Venables. And additionally, at least I know Billy Napier in some form or fashion as a head coach. I'm fully convinced if someone put a gun to my head, the death beam to me, and said, what is Brent Venables? I would tell you he is a defensive coordinator cosplaying as a head coach.
I've been saying it since he got hired, since Castiglione gave him the extension.
Mm-hmm.
This dude, it's just alarm bells were set off to me when he was being approached. He was the hot name as a coordinator, and he passed on so many gigs to move up. Right. He didn't want it. He never wanted it. And it got to the point where he was starting to look like a fool for not moving up and taking over a program. And when you're like that at his age, just passing up job after job to be Dabo's defensive coordinator, I just didn't ever think he had it in him to be it. And there's nothing wrong with that. Not everybody is for that, but I never thought it would work. I can't believe he got the extension for no reason at all. That was just ridiculous. And Castiglione, a really excellent AD, but that was a bad move.
Yeah,
and
bad move.
Now he's reset with the offensive coordinator. That's his one. You get that one where you can do that next time you're out. but I'm with you. I actually think Billy. I trust more, which is amazing to say.
Yeah, I absolutely trust Billy more. Do I trust either of them? No.
No,
But
right.
And also I think it's just more likely that Brent Venables ends up leaving Oklahoma in some big crazy scandal than it is him ever making it to the Final Four.
Penn State fans prove year after year they're the worst in the Big Ten. Those dudes harassing Jason Kelsey was clear evidence. Dude, the way he threw that phone, you could see the athleticism in throwing the phone to the ground. Like it was like I was like, wow, that was really fast.
It's like, dang, like somebody should have, throw him a touchdown pass, seen him spike a football. He was snapped. I wish he would have snapped the phone.
Yeah, that would have been funny.
Like snapped it a mile.
All right, the Holy War, undefeated BYU minus 3.5 against 4-4 Utah. In another line, Utah without a quarterback. I mean, what they've been through, it just looks off to me. BYU, in my opinion, the most disrespected team in the college football initial rankings. That one irritated me with ranked wins against SMU, beating Kansas State 38-9. BYU has covered the spread in its last 5 away games. They're averaging 35 points a game this year. Obviously, Utah switching quarterbacks again. It's just been a mess and a shuffle there. And Cam Rising has, in my opinion, ruined the last 2 years of Utah football. Absolutely ruined it. The line does feel off. What are your thoughts on this one?
This was the easiest pick of the whole thing for me. Give me BYU. I would have taken BYU up to -5. Give me BYU. I mean, I honestly, like, if someone held again a gun in my head and it's like, who's going to win this game by how much, and I didn't have the Vegas line in front of me, I would probably say like, oh, BYU by like 2 touchdowns.
So
I think Utah sucks. I think they're bad.
They do. They suck and they're bad. And I'm taking Utah plus the 3.5 points. This is a spot. This is a hold my nose spot. That another one where I'm just like, that doesn't seem right. And I'm going to go with Utah plus the 3.5. We'll see. We'll see if this pays off for me. My strategy of trying to pick spots where it looks odd and going the other way.
Trying to maneuver around Vegas.
Yeah, let's get to the big dog. The big dog. We've got Bama. Bama lost to Vandy, Tennessee. They're 6-2, 3-2 in the SEC. Heading into Death Valley, LSU 6-2, 3-1 in the SEC. They got the USC loss to begin the season. Alabama is -2.5. All-time 88 games in this series. Alabama leads 56-27 and 5. To me, another somewhat puzzling line when people Death Valley to me is like I say about Penn State or Autzen, this is not a 3-point home field advantage. Death Valley at night, I don't know how you quantify what it's worth, but basically they're saying they think Alabama is a touchdown better than this LSU team. Milroe can make it that way for sure. On his best days, he can beat anybody. We haven't seen one of those Milroe best days in a while. That's why I'd have pause choosing Alabama here. What are your thoughts on this game?
Do you think this game is going to be a shootout or a game that's in the high teens or 20s?
I think this will be a mid-scoring kind of game is how I'm feeling. I feel we got some turnovers coming. It's just going to be a kind of a sloppy-ish looking game. Okay. We've had a lot of picks by Nussmeier. It just feels like, kind of one of those mid-range scoring SEC games.
I think it's going to be a shootout. I think it's going to be closer to that Georgia-Bama score, maybe even higher. And because of that, I think that this is going to be a Bama win. I'm picking Bama in this game. What is it? It's Bama -3.
2.5 is what I got it at.
2.5. Okay, so I'm gonna go. I'll take Bama with that -3.
Okay. Nussmeier 7 picks in his last 4 starts. Alabama 5th in team takeaways. Last year they were 64th. So good on them. LSU 3-1 at home as an underdog in their last 4, or under Brian Kelly. But Alabama 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 in Baton Rouge. And this one is just, a flip a coin type of game. I'm going to go with the Death Valley at Night Magic. Okay. I'm going to pick LSU. And boy, we've got head-to-head all weekend.
All over the place, man. Funny. Goodness.
Let's get to our Buckeyes. We've got Purdue coming into the shoe. Ohio State minus 38. I hate these kind of lines. I don't ever bet them. First thing I want to ask you is about the move of Edric Houston moving inside, which I think we all thought he was better suited for right off the rip. What is your opinion on that as far as who you have now outside, which next year we're looking at Caden Curry, Kenyatta Jackson, Josh Mickens, Dominic Kirks, and the 3 freshmen? They've got to go to the portal here for some help, man. This is not good.
I didn't like the move of Edric inside right now because of how light you are at edge moving forward.
Yeah.
I think at tackle, you got to feel pretty good, right? I feel like we're really deep at tackle moving forward.
Very deep.
I'm not concerned at all. So I don't understand like why you would take away from a strength to add to or take away from a weakness to add to a strength, I guess is where I'm at. Like I'm a believer that like he's likely our best young edge. And I know people are like, well, what about Caden Curry? Well, what about those guys aren't young anymore. We're talking about guys that are upperclassmen.
They're done next year. Like, this is it. One more year and they're out.
One more year. I absolutely think Houston should have stayed outside. I'm a little confused and wonder. I would appreciate and understand the move inside if guys like Sonny, if guys like CJ Hicks, if those guys were made as those like stand-up edge rushers as they've often been talked about. But if they're not being talked about as those edge rushers and you're moving Houston inside, I don't love it.
Does it signal to you that maybe that's coming? Because when we look at when we're looking at the roster, right, next year, first off, you had 3 interior guys, three guys outside with Ziggy, Zahir, and London Merritt, and inside Trajan Odom, Max Roy, and Jarquez Carter. But you're still talking guys like Jason Moore and Hero Canoe, Caden McDonald. They've got Eric Mensah and Will Smith. I mean, just a plethora of young dudes. And it was a puzzling decision up from that end, but it was also, obviously Edric Houston better suited in that role to me.
Look at this. Maybe because we're getting Stewart. If that's the case, sign me up twice.
Well, that's the other thing I was thinking though, Chris. Like, what kind of big time defensive end wants to come play in this system at Ohio State? You're looking at Jack and JT's numbers, like you're going, what? I don't want to go play in that. I don't want to play contain. Like I want to get after it somewhere. You know what I mean?
No, I couldn't agree more. That's why it was a little bit puzzling to me.
Yeah. I think that just looking at this season, I want to talk to you about this, that the new Big Ten is going to make Ohio State so much better of a competitor in the postseason.
I agree.
When you get a spot to play Oregon in the middle of the season and you get that opportunity to recognize what you need to do, what Ryan Day said, re-engineer the defense, things like that. Just you didn't have that before, and you'd go up in the postseason or at the end of the season and get punched in the mouth, not have time to be able to adjust. And these teams down in different conferences might have had those bigger games earlier on, had that opportunity to do that. I think it's really going to help.
Yeah, because our flaws in previous seasons, Chuck, wouldn't result in losses because a lot of times we were playing like subpar Big Ten teams. This year, there's 3 or 4 chances for our flaws to result in losses earlier in the year without costing this team a chance at winning a national title, so that when those flaws happen, you then fix them. It's like before, we would have to crash the car to go get new brakes because they'll just rebuild the whole front end. Right now, we're the drivers that are recognizing, oh, my brakes are bad. Let me change them before I go on this road trip. And I think that's the most important thing in regards to this Ohio State team, the current Big Ten, and how this current playoff format will benefit Ohio State, because they'll have no choice but to face things head on instead of just excusing things to, oh, we just didn't get up versus a good team, or, oh, the refs screwed us and that's why we lost to Georgia. No. Halfway through the year, your defense gave up a lot of points to Oregon. Let's re-engineer. Let's fix it, because we didn't win that game. Like, we're not good enough to win without re-engineering the defense. And I think that is really what was missing beforehand with Ohio State and with the conference.
I also want to say that this is also with Ryan Day, the look he gave to his program, the really hard look and the changes that he made in the offseason, and then doing that again after the Oregon game, and even coming out and describing that as re-engineering after that game. It just it's a proactive coach. It's a proactive approach. I love it. I really love it. And it makes me really happy to hear him even use words like that publicly. Not something you generally hear. All right, my man. That's all I got. I want the record to reflect we are at 59 minutes and 23 seconds when I'm getting you out of here. I am getting so much better at this, Chris. It's just amazing. Look at that. Perfect.
Look at you, a pro's pro. Shout out to Juck. Juck on Bucks. What the Juck?
Thank you so much, brother. I appreciate you. Have a great show today.
Yep, I appreciate you, Juck. We'll talk.
Later, buddy. My man, Chris Drew from Menace to Sports. That was really awesome. That was an awesome show. And I love being on the opposite sides of all those bets because that makes it a whole lot more fun when we go over it on Monday. But we got to get through 10 questions and 10 questions. Maybe I'll do that later. I'll do 10 questions later. How's the chat doing, huh? How's the Juck guys? How's the Juck guys on Friday? I am leaving. Can Mitchell Melton use a COVID year next year? I was thinking about that. That would be great. I would love to get Mitch Melton back. He's been underused this year just through, a lot of bodies being around. I think he's a pretty damn good pass rusher. And, we've heard Josh Simmons say it. Josh Simmons said he's the toughest guy to block. He's just an awkward guy to block. And I like the sound of that. Every time he's in there, I see him making a play. I really enjoy watching him play. Got a great attitude, and I would really like to see that. So on the Jakeem Stewart conversation, Jakeem Stewart, Alpha Dog says, I'd be shocked if Stewart didn't go to LSU. It's damn near impossible to pry the best player in Louisiana out of LSU's hands. And it sure is, until I see it, I'm not going to believe it. Though I think Ohio State's done really well to get themselves in position. I think Oregon has too. His relationship with Larry Johnson seems really, really genuine, and there's no doubt about that in my mind. Like Larry really, really has taken a liking to him, and Jakeem Stewart's been very receptive to that. In the end, can Ohio State, will they choose to go max deal dollars with him? I think there's a big turnoff in the fact that he is elected to not play football this year, didn't play much last year. The issues going around college football with guys, basically being on 1-year deals. There's a lot that goes into that. They were willing to do that with a guy like David Sanders, who comes in and starts day one. Stewart's not that guy. You definitely need another year, at least 1 year. Oregon and LSU probably going to go max deal with him. I just don't know, man. I'd be surprised if they were able to land him. And then additionally, you got to also look at Larry Johnson is signed through next year, right? That's it. Like that's when, is he going to get another extension? Does he want another extension? Does the thought of Stewart maybe being another Boza or Chase Young make him want to stay on longer? There's, what I mean? A little iffy there. My guy Dave asked what our thoughts are on the SEC this year. Is it a little down at the top? I think so. Not much, but I think so. Yeah, for sure. There's nobody that I'm scared of. Like as from a Buckeye fan standpoint, there's usually always that one team, whether that be Georgia or Bama or whoever the hell it is in the last 20 years. Could be LSU, could be Florida, could have been, you know what I mean? But there's not that one team that scares me. Texas certainly doesn't. That's not the team. A lot of this could be predicated on the fact that I think Ohio State's a really good team this year too, but maybe better than in some of those other years. But yeah, I think so. I definitely do. Mr. Ohio, what's up, buddy? M2S Juck. Andy says, who guessed that Indiana game would be the best home ticket this year at the Shoe? Yeah. I just keep going back. I played that clip of Kurt Signetti taking the job. And by the way, he did credit Jim Tressel in Jim Tressel's 300-day speech for his initial speech at Indiana when he took over the mic. And he said, Purdue sucks. And so do Ohio State and Michigan. And there were some Buckeye fans irritated when I played it. And I was like, come on, guys, it's Indiana. Let them have their fun, laughing. Could you imagine? This guy's got the opportunity to beat Ohio State and Michigan in year one. just by luck, right? Matter of fact, guys, he plays Ohio State. He plays Michigan, Ohio State, and Purdue in order. Those are the 3 teams he called out. How amazing would that be? Like, obviously not amazing for Buckeye fans, but just as a story to call that out in the press conference and then have the opportunity to beat the 3 of them to end the season, which would be an undefeated regular season. That would be like the story of all stories at Indiana. I mean, if I was a fan of another team, I would really be rooting for that hard. Terry Slusher, what's up, buddy? Terry thinks Indiana plays us tough, but not sure they have the depth to hang the whole game. I think we're all going to get a better read on Indiana this week, tomorrow, which I can't believe. I don't know about you guys. Maybe it is just that I was basking in the feeling of that Penn State win, but this week just flew by. Absolutely flew by for me. And thankfully, I had so much to talk about with the Penn State win that, as busy as I was at work, I'm like all the political stuff, just like I missed it all, which was great. I loved that. Really nice. And it's really nice that my phone is not getting all these text messages every day and phone calls from numbers that look like it's someone I should answer it from for a business call. And it's some, pollster or something. That was so obnoxious. In the text messages nonstop. So really happy that's over. I am leaving. With Edric Houston going inside next year, does this set up the Jack for next year? The defense looks a lot more like Jim Knowles' defense, but, from Oklahoma State. I don't know that we're ever going to see that Jack here. But I'm with Rod here, even though I got to say, like Rod says, move Hicks to defensive end. When we look at the linebacker room next year, you're looking at Sonny, Arvell, Gabe Powers, Peyton Pierce, Garrett Stover, Riley Pettijohn, Eli Lee, TJ Alford. That's a stout linebacker room. So there's certainly, more need at defensive end, and he would seemingly fit that. He's not a very good linebacker, right? He's at this point, I'm ready to say he's just not a very good linebacker. But watching the film, man, there are certain things that I see in his game that just look like he's not very aggressive. And it's like, I'm just puzzled by it. Such a phenomenal athlete. Just doesn't look, you see some of the other guys, and it's tough for me to explain, but I'm just like, really, man? Like that's smack that dude. You know what I mean? Like, I don't get it. We've seen him be aggressive on a couple of rushes for sure. So maybe that's just all he needs is a different spot, but I don't know. It's puzzling to me. It's puzzling. I think it's a better idea because the linebacker room, I think some of those young guys are going to play early. We talk about TJ and Riley. I think they're going to accelerate the process with those two. And you guys know I love Eli. That's my dog. He's a Juck eye. Kevin Barr, work is killing you, buddy. I'm sorry to hear that. Rod is picking Indiana to win this weekend, but not cover the 14 points. I went back and forth on that one, bro. Mika, a big Gabe Powers fan from Marysville, Ohio, as am I. So I've got Mika hopes we don't lose Gabe Powers. I've got my 10 questions for the Buckeyes game. I'm going to do that in a separate video later because I got to go get some stuff done here in a few, and that might take me a while. Dave said, Terry would love to see OSU give Indiana, Oregon, and Penn State their only losses. That would be a pretty cool achievement this year. Yeah. What's up, Steely? She definitely does. She loves every recruit that comes out of Ohio, as do I. Matter of fact, I'm doing a segment here pretty soon. I got a text message last night from a parent of a recruit from Ohio in the class of 2025. And essentially what he was asking me was, why does it feel like Ohio State podcasts, Ohio State fans, Ohio State coaches don't appreciate us as much as when we go visit other places? He doesn't understand it. And I thought it would be a good thing to do a segment on. Something I've railed about for a while. So I contacted a couple more parents in the class of 2025, and I'm working on this segment I'm going to put together for it. But the point is, guys, we have got to get more amped up for our hometown boys. We've got to show them more love because the world is shrinking, and we're going to see more and more of them leave. And it's not just on us, it's on the coaching staff as well and the practices they use in recruiting with Ohio kids. But the world has shrunk. They are more apt to leave, and they need to be feeling the same amount of love as we show to out-of-state guys. And they're not. So we'll work on that segment. We'll have that sometime next week. But we love our hometown boys here at JUCK on Bucks. Oh, Mika, it'll be your favorite show of the year. Of that, I'm positive. Rod says we need more Ohio guys on the staff. It is, look, I really like Ryan Day and Chip Kelly and Jim Knowles, but man, it's about 3 Northeasterners, bro. You know what I mean? Like, if it ever goes south with them, the first thing I'm saying is we got 3 Northeasterners running this program. If things ever got really bad, get them out. Kyle B says the fans, I think, are loving the Ohio kids. I mean, we are nonstop from fans about Day not getting it, not prioritizing Ohio kids, etc. There are definitely so there's a group of, like, when you talk about the fans, Kyle, you got to keep in mind, like, the fans that you interact with and the fans that I interact with are the fans that watch shows like this, 4 or 5 of them a day. We're a different breed. You know what I mean? We're the 0.002% of a 13 million strong fan base. We're a little different. Sometimes I got to check myself about that when I'm like, the fan base, like, yeah, well, we're just a little bit different, quite a bit more tuned in. I would imagine that 10 million of those fans of Ohio State could not tell you what the defensive coordinator's name was. You know what I mean? Like, there's levels to this. You got the sweatshirt wearing fan that doesn't really watch the games. Then you got the fan who, tunes in every Saturday to watch the game. Then you got several steps between that fan and those of us who, we're in this all day, every day. There's not a piece of news we miss. We conjugate on Twitter and on YouTube. Like, we're different. We're different. And everything in life has the section of crazy folks. Like, we're past the diehard. We're just different. Kevin says we need to recruit all the top Ohio kids and not slow play them, which is, another thing that is obviously very irritating, and it's not been helping us, in that. So one of the other conversations I had was going, and there's a kid in 2027 who is an Ohio kid, felt all the love from Ohio State. We're talking about a highly ranked kid. And then feels like now he's being kind of ghosted. I told him, you're not being ghosted. They know that they can come back later, right, and talk to you, and they're using this time in the meantime to, okay, we need to keep going and making more contacts and building more relationships. Just sit tight. And, that doesn't feel good because it feels like you're being put on the back burner because you're from Ohio and they know that you'll still be there. If you wait too long, you won't still be there. And we've seen that happen before several times recently. So I think there just needs to be a reset on how the staff recruits Ohio. Wouldn't that be fun to pick Pantoni's brain? The in-state talent looks great. Absolutely. How many coaches on the staff are from Ohio? Well, we've got Hartline. OG Walt and Laurinaitis are not from Ohio, but I guess we could probably count them, right? Like at this point. Where's McGarry from? Justin Fry's from Indiana. We got the 3 Northeasterners and the head coach and the 2 coordinators. David Smith says Day definitely slow plays Ohio kids on playing time, thinking they'll hang around and it's going to bite him. Yes, James Laurinaitis is a Minnesota kid. Tim Walton is a Georgia kid. Off the top of Rod's head, he can only think of CJ Barnett and Hartline if we consider CJ a coach. I do, don't you guys? He's not technically a coach, but he's involved in everything up there. He was the one walking with Will Howard off the field at Penn State. Kevin would love to see more Ohio natives, but finding positions for them is the deal. Well, now that you can have unlimited guys and have them coaching, the more Ohio flavor, the better. So, all right, my friends, I appreciate you all so much for joining me today. Look for 10 things. 10 things we're looking for the Buckeyes game. I like to put that list out so that in the post-game show, I got something to come back and reference. All right, I'm going to answer these. Yeah, Dave's all right, man. You're not going to like this. You're going to like my answer here. Dave asks, how about I'm going to answer this one more. All right, so how about LaCharles Bentley as the O-line coach? He wants the job. I don't know for sure if he wants the job. It seems like he does. If you make LaCharles Bentley the offensive line coach, I feel like it's similar to the conversation Chris and I had about Florida hiring Dion. If you make him the offensive line coach, you need to get the hell out of the way and let him run the show. If the coach is okay with that, it'll work great. If the coach wants to meddle, it will not work because LaCharles Bentley is not an employee. He's a boss. It's that simple. And the dynamic there has to be laid out right from the rip. Now, do you want your head coach to not have a relationship with your offensive line coach where he can, stop in and tell him you're doing wrong? I want you to recruit this guy. Do you want that? That can lead to problems. But if you hire Bentley, man, get the hell out of his way. He's a confrontational dude. He's not taking any crap. I really feel like he always thinks he's right. And he's not always right, but he always thinks he's right. If they were to hire him, it would be ground rules need laid out, or get the hell out of his way and let him do his thing, which I think a lot of us feel comfortable with. Get out of his way. It basically seems like here's, let me put it like this. It's going to be a repeat of Larry Johnson, which I think nobody wants to find yourself in that situation again, where a lot of people feel like Larry has more control than a position coach should have and doesn't really listen. You're going to have a repeat of that. That's what I gather from LaCharles. He's just a super successful guy that knows he's right all the time, kind of confrontational. And I just don't know how that dynamic would work with Day, who is very non-confrontational. However, as an offensive line coach, I think he'd be amazing. But dynamics matter. You know what I mean? Like David said, Day and Bentley, not a good match. I feel similarly, to be honest. I really do. Last comment, Andy says, I think if there is a legit Ohio recruit with the right cultural alignment, you offer them regardless if they are not the best nationally. Culture will be even more important in the NIL era, and I couldn't agree more. All right, my friends, this time for real, we're gonna get out of here. I appreciate you all so much. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for enjoying some college football talk with me on this Friday morning, and I hope that you have a fantastic day. Look for me later as we may do the 10 Things video live at about 3 o'clock. So I will see you guys then. Juck on Bucks out. Hey, it's Juck.
Juck? Who is Juck?
Juck on Bucks.
Juck on Bucks.
Juck on Bucks?
Juck.
Juck on Bucks.
My guy, Juck.
Juck on Bucks?
My buddy, Juck.
Juck is the Juck.
It's Juck on Bucks.
Okay.
Juck is junk.
The Juck Eyes.
Juck Eyes.
Juck on Bucks.
Junk. Juck. Not junk. Juck.